All right, and we're live.
All right.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Bourbon Obsessed Bourbon Releases News Podcast, your commercial-free and money-free bourbon podcast for Monday, June 15th. I am Ed from BourbonObsessed.com, also known on Instagram as Bourbon_Obsessed. I publish bi-weekly newsletters featuring the latest bourbon news and releases, and also do this podcast version for your listening pleasure. This week, we again have quite a few new bourbon releases, so we'll jump right in after only a little small talk. I'm again joined by my friend and bourbon aficionado, Dean Langdon, who has been on sabbatical these last couple of weeks. Dean, welcome back.
Thanks very much.
How have you been these last few weeks? What have you done?
I have been
in a very short amount of time.
I've been doing a lot of things the last few weeks, and good reasons why. I haven't been able to help with the podcast, although I've missed it terribly. I went to the Indianapolis 500. I went to Europe for 2 weeks, and today visited my father, which is what we're supposed to do on Father's Day when we're recording this. So
very true.
It's been a busy 2 or 3 weeks, but we can weave that stuff in as we work through their new releases this week, because like you said, there's a lot of them, and we're sort of seeing the results of people ramping up production for years and years. You don't just sit on it, you got to do something with it. So they're releasing it, and that's good for us.
Well, it's a good segue, your world traveling, for the first whiskey we're going to discuss, because it brings together different parts of the world. So, RD1 Sister Cities Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey, finished in Japanese, Mizunara, and French oak, is the latest limited edition release from RD1 Spirits. The name pays homage to Lexington's sister cities of, we always have to have something I can't pronounce, Shinkidaka, Japan, and Duval, France, by finishing the whiskeys in oak from those countries. It's a blend of 5-year-old mature bourbon, which has French oak necklaces added to the barrels, then blended with a 7-year-old bourbon and an 8-year-old rye. Finally, the blend was finished for a short time with lightly toasted Japanese Mizunara staves. It's bottled at 102 proof and priced at $70 for a 750 milliliter bottle, which is a great price for a limited release with older bourbons and rye.
I think
like
so
that.
too, and that's some extensive finishing. None of that is free. It all takes some time and money and people's ingenuity to do that. It's interesting, the French necklaces. I know Dixon Dedman does something like that with his 2X oak project, where you basically take the wood and you sort of string cubes of it and you put it in the barrel. So that seems to be catching on. It's an interesting concept. It's certainly exposing the bourbon to more wood. I think surface wise you're probably getting as much from that necklace as you would from the barrel.
Oh yeah, I mean, RD1 that's how they've been doing their wood finishing ever since the beginning. They've been immersing different types of wood in different shapes. I think they've generally been the cubes. I'm not positive though, and that's how they've been doing their wood finishing. Yep. So I hadn't heard the necklaces before, but I guess it makes sense to string it together.
Well, and they sell used staves. Some of our distilleries do. Surely they're going to come up with a market for these necklaces, right? And so ask your distilleries, folks. Hey, can I get a used necklace that's been used to finish a bourbon barrel, and see if it gets you anywhere?
Well, I wonder what they're doing with those necklaces. Actually, that seems like a pretty good gift shop item.
I wonder too, because I'm sure, like anything associated with bourbon, there's a market, right? So I did see this is like 3 bourbons. It's like a 5-year bourbon, a 7-year bourbon, and an 8-year-old rye. 3 whiskeys, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, 2 bourbons. It was the 5-year-old bourbon, which is first finished with the French oak, and then a 7-year-old bourbon and an 8-year-old rye that it gets blended with.
I mean, that's a nice blend. All those have a little bit of age on them. And I looked to see if Lexington has other sister cities, and of course it does. One of those is County Kildare, Ireland, and so RD1 can follow this theme and do an Irish whiskey Kentucky bourbon blend. I know other people have done it, but I don't think RD1 has.
Sounds like a good idea. We'll let Barry know.
Barry, that's for you. Yeah.
How many other sister cities are there?
We have 2 others. One is Newmarket, England. Haven't figured out the twist on that yet. And
where's Newmarket, England? I mean, we're in England.
I don't know. I don't know. I assume I want to say it's north of London, but I wouldn't. our listeners can tell me that I'm totally wrong.
Or Google.
Well, yes.
Or Siri. Or any of the other countless things that will tell us.
Right. The other one is Jeju City in South Korea. And I don't know where that is in South Korea either. And I don't know enough about South Korea to know if they distill or what they distill in South Korea. I'm sure they distill something.
Well, it sounds like for your next trip abroad, you should be hitting Lexington Sister Cities, so you'll be better prepared to discuss this.
Well, there we go. Okay, all right. The Bourbon Obsessed Travelogue. So
Dean will be gone on sabbatical again. All right, so moving on. Lost Lantern has announced their summer collection, which is focused on estate distilleries, which they are describing as a distillery that makes whiskey from grain grown entirely on their own land. The summer collection features 4 distilleries: Frey Ranch, Whiskey Acres, Corbin Cache, and Far North. It includes 2 blends of estate whiskeys, Farmers Fields Bourbon and Farmers Fields Rye, both comprised of whiskeys from the distilleries featured in the collection. There are also 6 single cask whiskeys from these distilleries as well. The proofs and ages of the whiskeys vary, and the suggested retail prices for most are around $100. I think one was $130, and they'll be available beginning June 25th.
And I've only had a few Lost Lantern products. I really appreciate what they're doing in the marketplace. They're finding, they don't make anything. They buy other people's whiskey, and like in this situation, they're blending some of it, but they're also sending out usually single barrels and marketing those. And I really like the model. It exposes you to a bunch of different distilleries. I'm not familiar with all of these distilleries. I'm familiar with Far North and Frey Ranch and Corbin Cache. And I know we've talked a little bit about Whiskey Acres, but I don't think I've ever tried any of their products. Have you?
Honestly, the only one I've tried anything from was Frey Ranch, and I think that was actually a prior Lost Lantern release, which I think is probably right up there.
Well, and I think that's where I found my Far North was a Lost Lantern release. So
I would definitely. We've talked about. So I don't know if we know Frey Ranch does, and I'm pretty sure Whiskey Acres, because they came up when we talked about the estate distilleries that actually had the estate classification. Right. I do not know about the other 2. And that's why I sort of stressed the definition here, their definition of estate whiskey was, because that's a little different than the actual definition from the estate
from the Beam
whiskey
Institute
certification,
yes.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I've heard good things about all of these, and I would like to. I mean, a long time ago, someone told me I should visit. Well, I'd like to visit them all. Like, I'd like to visit everything. But right. Someone told me long ago I should visit Whiskey Acres, and I don't think that's all that far from here.
It's someplace in Illinois.
Yeah.
I did figure that out. So, yeah, that would probably be the closest one, because Far North is Minnesota, and Frey Ranch is Nevada, Corbin Cache is California. So,
yeah, they're all pretty far. But anyway, sounds like a great collection.
Yeah, and I mean, I dove into some of the specifics on these, and for example, the Farmers Fields Bourbon is a blend of the Far North, Frey Ranch.
My dog Nick has come to join us.
Hey, Nick.
As usual.
Come on, buddy. And Nick has a very discerning palate, and so when you read these and you think Ed has provided the tasting notes, it's really Nick. So.
Well, he's got a much better sense of smell than I do.
Than all of us, yes. So anyway, I mean, it's neat the way they mix these. The rye is a blend from all 4 distilleries. The bourbon is a blend just from Far North, Frey Ranch, and Whiskey Acres. I'm not sure Corbin Cache makes a bourbon, to be honest with you. I think they may just make rye.
Is that true? I've heard very good things about them as well. I've never tried anything from them.
We'll have to. I've got a bottle. We'll have to open that next time.
Oh, so, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I've been waiting for a reason to open it. Now I have it.
Mm-hmm. You have it in the car?
Unfortunately not.
All right, so let's move on to our next one. It's Fire and Flask Distillery is releasing batch 4 of their Didymium Bourbon. According to the distillery, heirloom purple corn meets the darkest char yet. Utilizing 5-gallon char 4 barrels, they're bringing a bourbon that is sweet and smoky. This amazing batch has been aging for over a year in those 5-gallon barrels, getting better by the day. It's only available at Second Sight Spirits, The Party Source, and Total Wines across Kentucky. The bourbon will first be released at Second Sight Spirits, well, or just was June 14th, which was
yesterday.
Yesterday.
Saturday.
So yeah, so I mean, they're a small distillery just starting out. They're using the smaller barrels. They're interestingly using that heirloom purple corn.
Purple corn is interesting. I mean, that's an interesting twist. 5 gallons is just really small. I have a hard time thinking how you're going to actually, how would you ramp up production if it works well for you? That's going to be really hard in a 5-gallon barrel. And once you move up, you're not going to get the same profile, I wouldn't think. So,
yeah,
interesting experiment. I'm not sure what was the price on that.
I didn't say. So it's 100 proof and $85.
Ah, okay. That's a bit dear for a year-old bourbon, right? But again, it's an interesting concept with the purple corn and the char 4. I understand what they're trying to do there. Something nobody else has done. I'll admit that.
Yeah, I actually can't think of another purple corn. I mean, there's a number that use various heirloom corns.
Right, and there's a blue corn out there, but yeah, I don't know about the purple one either.
Well, we haven't. I mean, we did give their bourbon a try, but it was a pre-release version of it that I think was maybe 9 months old at the time.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you probably don't want it much older than a year in a 5-gallon barrel, right? It's going to get really oaky really fast in that smaller container, I think.
Well, you certainly have to keep a very careful eye on it.
Yeah. Like as you said, it's probably a day-by-day monitoring to see how it tastes today.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I haven't tasted one of the actual releases. We've only tasted those pre-release samples. So have to give it a try.
Yeah.
One of these days.
It's released. We'll go look for it.
All right, now I'm sort of on the opposite end. We have Stitzel-Weller Distillery unveils Stitzel Reserve, a new series of rare distillery exclusive releases beginning with a 24-year-old Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, Stitzel Reserve, aged 24 years. Personally selected by Nicole Austin, Director of American Whiskey, Liquid Development, and Capabilities for Diageo. Long title. The 24-year-old bourbon was drawn from just 9 barrels, yielding only 191 bottles. The inaugural release will be available in very limited quantities exclusively at the Louisville Distillery starting this month, June 2025, with individual tasting experiences offered on site. It's bottled at 123.4 proof, and the price I don't think was actually ever formally announced, but it's been reported at $1,600 per bottle. And the other thing is, it's also been rumored that they're only releasing 1 bottle per day, not per person, per day.
Wow.
At the distillery, which they've done in the past with their Blade and Bow 22 releases. So that's sort of what Stitzel-Weller does with these older rare releases.
It's a unicorn, right? 191 bottles out of 9 barrels. That's not a lot of juice. I mean, wow. Hope they rinsed them and did something with the rinse too. 24 years is really getting up there, and in my brain, you're always taking a little bit of a risk when you get into the 20 plus year category, because sometimes it can just be totally over oaked and a lot of tannins, and I'm sure they've quality controlled this and it's not that way, right? But I'm afraid I'm probably not going to get a bottle.
We have not quality controlled it.
No. We're willing to. If any of our listeners wishes some professional insights into it, we're happy to help with that.
It's pretty bold, 24 proof. 24 years at 123.4 proof. I mean, aside from 1, 2, 3, 4 being an interesting number. But other than that, because as you say, it's hard to not get fairly oaky at this age, especially because these barrels obviously didn't have much left in them. So we're assuming they're going to be quite concentrated. So, at that proof, it's fine. I suppose people can, proof it down themselves if they would like it at a lower proof, or if they find that it's too oaky. You obviously can't go the other way. So I think, people like us that tend to like things at a higher proof would obviously favor it being bottled like this, but you wonder. Obviously the other thing to point out is that there's extremely unlikely that this actually was distilled at Stitzel-Weller, and rumor has it that it's not that it's a rye bourbon. It's not a wheated bourbon. So it's
interesting.
It's really just matured there. So, that all starts begging the question: how's it worth $1,600? But
and this is one of those. I mean, maybe at a place like Neat, if they get a bottle, maybe it's $100 pour for a half ounce. Would I spend $100 to try it? If I had 2 or 3 ahead of time, maybe.
Okay, well, I'll look for you that day.
Okay, good. It's again, it's a unicorn, right? It's between the price point, the proof. But I did a little bit of math. I mean, that's between 20 and 30 bottles per barrel. I mean, those are almost empty.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not a lot of juice. So
it's 24. I mean, there's a lot of barrels I've heard, that have been aging in those rick houses. And I'd also heard that, I don't think any of this is written or confirmed facts, but that they want to empty a lot of those rick houses out there because they're aging and have some, potential structural issues. And
that would make sense.
So I think, that may be a little bit of an impetus for some of these older releases, or this just sort of honestly appearing out of the blue. I mean, what's been released from Stitzel-Weller recently, other than the Blade and Blood 22 every year.
Yeah.
So.
That's an interesting take. I'd be interested to see if they actually, empty it out or empty it to where they can move everything someplace else and then.
Well, I think this
refurbish.
Could just be a very expensive garage sale. We should have charged more for our stuff.
right, yeah. That's
anyway.
The Stitzel-Weller garage sale. That's a great T-shirt. We need to work on that, Ed.
So anyway, once again, this is all just conjecture.
That's right, and that's okay. That's why you'll listen, right?
We do not know for sure the story behind these barrels, but I'm sure it's good whiskey. I'd obviously like to try it. I don't see that happening anytime soon, but you never know.
We never know, So our next one is interesting too.
Yes, the bottle's sitting right in front of us, and that's purely by chance because they happen to sell it, today, which is the day before the podcast is being released. On Father's Day, Buffalo Trace Distillery surprised everybody by having the first release of the Eagle Rare 12, which they had a really large number of bottles there. I mean, we left there at 3:00. There was already still like a line of probably 100 or 200 people out there. I do not know if everybody at that point is getting a bottle, but they had been selling it since it was
they
open.
opened it,
I mean, someone said there were 1,300 bottles. I do not know. That was obviously not based on any fact either, but there were definitely a lot.
It's not meant to be an allocated product, right? I mean,
no, it is.
It's just another piece in the layer of Eagle Rares, but it's not like the 25 or.
Well, I think it's moving. Well, I guess we should read about it first, but I mean, I thought its point was it's the 10 will no longer be an allocated product. That's supposed to become more available on the shelves, and the 12 will still be not as common, but as we'll see when we give the facts about it, I mean, it's retail price, not unlike all of the other, not many, I guess some of the Buffalo Trace ones are very expensive, but the majority are quite reasonably priced at MSRP. It's just finding them at MSRP that's the challenge. So sort of in reverse order, we will say Buffalo Trace Distillery has officially unveiled Eagle Rare 12, a new permanent addition to its award-winning bourbon portfolio. It is aged for a minimum of 12 years and bottled at 95 proof. The launch of Eagle Rare 12 was made possible by the distillery's recently completed $1.2 billion expansion project, according to the distillery. Priced at $49.99 per 750 milliliter bottle, the bourbon will roll out to select retailers, bars, and restaurants nationwide beginning June 2025, and then eventually will go to international markets as well. And I mean, we just happened to chance upon it. We had already had tour reservations today, and which honestly were very helpful because we didn't have to stand in the absolutely gigantic line when we arrived there, although we did have to walk a half mile to park because you couldn't get in the driveway. The driveway was backed out all the way to the street because of everybody coming just to buy the bottles. But at least by already having the tour reservations, we could at least just you just go right in. You don't have to stand on the the big line. Yeah. So it was pure luck for us. I mean, we didn't plan it at all.
The bourbon gods, karma is real, right? When you're bourbon obsessed, that's great. I mean, that's a great story.
Every once in a while, the stars align.
Yes, they do. They do. So, that's an excellent price point for a 12-year-old product. And if we're going to be able to find it, I hope it sounds like they've got quite a bit of it. They're rolling it out this way.
We should taste it.
1,300.
This is the first taste ever. I haven't tasted it yet. Yeah. Did you taste it?
I tasted it just a little bit, but I'm going to let you go first. So.
Well, it's nice on the first sip. So it's rested for 15 minutes in a Glencairn.
Yes.
So it's had a chance to open up, because you can't really taste any bottles right when you first open them. I mean, they always have to open up.
Get an alcohol taste, right? So.
And especially as they start getting older. And this is not particularly higher proof, but nonetheless.
Did we tell folks what the proof is?
We didn't, but we have the bottle sitting in front of us.
No,
I did say it. 95.
95, 95 proof. So that's a nice proof point. Not high enough to scare away people, but it certainly has. It's got nice legs. It's got good. It's got a good mouthfeel to it. I like the taste a lot. I got some, the traditional caramel vanilla, but boy, nice. The second sip got a nice smoky flavor to it.
I mean, it's definitely got like all those classic bourbon flavors in the nose. Right. I mean, it's got some vanilla, some honey, some caramel. I mean, everything that you would expect from the Eagle Rare. It has a little tannin to it at the end, though, but that's probably coming from the 12-year part, which I don't think is part of what the 10 would have. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, we can taste it in more depth at some point. But first taste, definitely good for $49.99. It's a buy every day.
When you see it on the shelves, that'd be a great daily drinker at that price point.
Although I think when it first came out this morning and people immediately put it on the secondary, it was at $600 a bottle.
Wow.
And then by a little later in the day, it had cooled off to $400 a bottle. So when it starts getting down to $49.99, it's a definite buy. But
yes,
I mean, honestly, it's not really usually worth overpaying for bottles. You will get them all eventually, and there's plenty of good things out there. So,
it's going to be there. You don't have to be the first ones on your block to have it.
No.
And maybe this will make it easier if you have problems finding Eagle Rare regular. Maybe you'll be able to find it more readily now. And it's, it's 10 years old, right? So we're really just looking at an additional 2 years.
I feel there's more to this, though. But
I do too. Yeah,
we need to try them side by side. The nose is richer. It's got more flavor to it. And after this has been open, so just so y'all know, since we're talking about this, I mean, when we review things, so everything rests in a Glencairn for at least 15 minutes just to open up. Let some of that alcohol evaporate off of it. Let a little air interact with it. It brings out the flavors more. And then we always taste things over multiple days to try to get a consistent flavor profile of it before we do reviews. Because I guarantee, I don't know about this, but the majority of bourbons, especially as they get older and higher proof, are going to taste different on the subsequent days after opening them. They probably change the most between the first and second day, but I mean, they'll continue to change, but obviously you can't wait like a year to do do a review. So you try to get some estimate of a consistent flavor profile. So I would never open it now, take a taste, and say this is it,
how it is.
I do not believe that's an accurate representation.
We've all had, well, at least Ed and I have had plenty of whiskeys where we first tried it and we're going, I'm not so sure about that. You give it 2 or 3 days, you come back to it, it's like, that's a lot better. It's a lot different. And so you really can't review something on the first taste once you open the bottle up. We can say it's good. We expect it to continue to be good, but you're right, Ed. I wouldn't give it a full-scale review at this point. It's too early to do that.
No, I mean, obviously, I would have very high hopes for this. Buffalo Trace releases very good whiskeys. Eagle Rare at 12 years is obviously set up to be quite a good whiskey, but we will definitely need to try it on subsequent days.
And they're going to have to pay for that $1.2 billion expansion. So
that's the part I didn't understand. Now that you mentioned that, I don't understand how a $1.2 billion expansion that was recently completed makes 12-year-old bourbon that was made years ago suddenly more available. So I don't I'd
You
need
got
to
me.
have that
You got
clarified.
me. I don't know either. I mean, it's they've also got a time machine and they've used it.
Right, because
to
just
super age
because
bourbon. Yeah, I
because
don't
we
know. I
understand
don't
that
know.
there's much more capacity now, but it doesn't suddenly make 12-year-old
No.
bourbon appear.
No.
So I don't understand. So interesting. It's just they wound up in the news in this order, but the next one has a very similar story as opposed to availability, price, and what it's commanding on the secondary market at this point. So Heaven Hill Distillery has introduced Old Fitzgerald 7-year-old bottled in bond Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey as the Old Fitzgerald brand's new signature expression. It's aged for 7 years and bottled at 100 proof. It has a suggested retail price of $59.99 for a 700 milliliter bottle. Like the current Old Fitzgerald Decanter series, it is a wheated bourbon using Heaven Hill's 68% corn, 20% wheat, and 12% malted barley mash bill, the same mash bill used in their popular Larceny bourbon. According to the brand, every aspect of the Old Fitzgerald 7-year-old bottled in bond bottle, from liquid to packaging, was purposefully designed to both honor the brand's long-standing appeal and delight today's bourbon drinkers. It is already rolling out and will be available nationwide starting in early summer 2025. And this is another one where, its price is, well, surprisingly actually higher than this 12-year here, but
Right.
but $59.99 for a 7-year wheated bourbon bottled in bond is quite a reasonable price. And this is meant to be, unlike the Eagle Rare 12, where it may still be somewhat more limited, the Old Fitzgerald 7-year bottled in bond is meant to actually be an outright addition to the line, just like the Heaven Hill 7-year bottled in bond that's
right.
already out there.
Right.
So definitely not meant to be overpaid for, but yet is showing up at the secondary for high prices.
Is it already?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it looks like Heaven Hill's going to the 700 ml bottles, and so you factor that in to the price. And again, it's interesting, like you say, comparing it to the Eagle Rare. You got 5 more years of age. You've got 50 more milliliters of juice. I forget how the proof lines up, but
95
was
versus
bottled in bond
100.
95 versus 100. Yeah. So, the other thing I thought about was, if this is the old Larceny mash bill, there's not an age statement on Larceny, right? But it's $28-30 for a bottle, half the price of this.
I think it's 6 to 7 years.
Yeah. Well, and so
Or 7 to 8. It's in a similar ballpark, which is interesting. So I don't know exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously these are chosen.
We need to do a side by side of the Old Fitz 7 and just a regular Larceny and see.
Well, in my head, they taste completely different.
Yeah.
I haven't tried them side by side, but I've
Right.
tried them both. So,
Yeah, that'd be interesting to do. We should do that. If any of our listeners have done that, write us and tell us what you thought. I don't know how I would. It's meant to be more reminiscent of the Old Fitz higher end, the decanter. It's not in a decanter, but it's got a similar label and things like that. So that's what they're trying to evoke there.
well, it's like a cross. It's not like in a decanter, but it's not like in a plain bottle either.
Right.
It's got sort of a upscale kind of look for it, and some of them come in that velvet bag.
Oh, that'd be neat. Yeah. So it's a nice. They're finding another layer in that market that they can hope to put out product through. And Heaven Hill makes great juice, so I think it'll probably work.
No, I think it's great. It's meant to be the partner to the 7-year bottled in bond that's out there, just the wheated version of it. And it's not meant to be crazy price. It's meant to be reasonable. So, it's going to take a year probably till the market gets used to it being out there and people don't just grab it up because of the decanter series and treat it like an allocated product, which is how it's being treated right now, unfortunately.
Sure, yeah.
But that should blow over. So when the smoke blows over in another year, I've had it it's $59.99. If you're a wheated bourbon fan, it's very solid bourbon for the price. Definitely worth.
Yeah. It's a nice partner to the 7-year bottled in bond bourbon. I think.
Yeah,
that's a nice match.
I think it's a great addition, and I think it's a good, really good price point.
Yeah. What do you got next?
Well, we have Old Forester. They've announced that there will now be a national distribution for their President's Choice line of whiskeys, which up to now have generally only been available intermittently and in very limited quantities, and pretty much only at the distillery, although I guess I've seen them pop up here and there. In addition, there has previously only been a President's Choice bourbon, but Old Forester has now announced the addition of a rye as well. According to the distillery, each President's Choice barrel is aged between 7 to 9 years and bottled at proof points traditionally ranging from 110 to 125 proof. And I just note that the 7 to 9 year age range is at the lower end of many prior releases in the President's Choice series, and the suggested retail price is $225. So this past Saturday, June 14th, they had a release at the distillery, which people apparently were lining up starting noon the previous day. We're completely around the block. And they also did an online release.
Yeah.
So
the bourbon market is still strong, folks. I don't care what they say. Depending on your product and if it's limited or allocated, you're going to be able to sell it. So, I don't know. Have they sent you a sample to review? Okay, well, you never know.
But I did crack a bottle of a 12-year-old President's Choice just 2 weeks ago, and that's the thing. So you're now looking at a 7 to 9 year. I don't know if you have any President's Choices, but
I've not. No.
So I mean, here's this is the lower end of the price range, and the proofs. That's probably the ballpark. I think they can be a little higher. But now that they're going to be down to 7 to 9 years, so you're talking $225 for a 7 to 9 year old bourbon.
Yeah.
That's honestly very high for the current market.
So you look. Eagle Rare is $50 for a 12-year. That's less than $5 a year. You can do this by year, folks. And then the Old Fitz 7-year-old, $60. That's roughly $10 a year. You're looking at $30 a year for this. That's a big markup from that perspective. That doesn't mean it may not be worth it, but it's certainly a high price point for bourbon these days.
So I see a big similarity to this same parent company, Brown-Forman, as to Woodford Double Oak. So Double Oak sort of got a mind of its own and became like a cult favorite of the distillery series at Woodford.
Yeah.
And then so Brown-Forman decided that they would release it nationwide, made the price $200. Isn't that what it was when we talked about it a couple months ago?
That sounds right. Yeah.
Which is considerably higher than it used to be. Right. And gave it a national distribution. And what happened there, I think a lot of people that had always wanted bottles of the Double bought it, even though people like me who had been buying it since the beginning in 2015 passed on that because I thought the price was, too high.
Too high, yeah.
And but I understand how people who had always wanted it, would buy it, but they will buy it once would be my prediction. I don't think they're going to buy these $200 release every time it comes out now. And I think President's Choice is the same way. That's been like, a unicorn that, they're hard. It took me a long time to get any of them, frankly. And so people don't have them. So I think people will be willing to buy it once, but after they pay $225 for a 7-year-old bourbon once, they're probably going to be satisfied they have the bottle, and they're not going to sell in the future. That's just my prediction, that both of those, by current market standards, are significantly at the high end for their ages.
Above market, right?
Yeah.
Right. And we know there's a group that buys so they can have it on their shelves, and what I would call, I guess, a true collector who may not even be buying it to drink, right? I know you wouldn't know anything about that, Ed, but most of yours are open.
Well, here's one right here. This isn't the open one. The open one, this is an 11-year, by the way. But nice. The one we opened was a 12, and that was just the other day. Yeah. And that one's not here, but that's in Bardstown. Otherwise, I'd be happy to give you a pour to go with your Eagle Rare 12.
We have to be judicious. We don't want people thinking we're overindulging.
I'd say we could open that one, but now that they're down to 7 to 9 years, I'm only going to have one older one open at a time.
Right. Yeah. So I'm sure, again, they'll sell out, right? They'll sell all they make, at least right now. We'll see.
They'll definitely sell it initially.
In 4 or 5 years. So
yeah, I think it will take that long. I think. Yeah. Just my prediction, folks. I think, the prices have gotten pretty reasonable for bourbon. Like we said, 6 years the new 4, 8's the new 6. Yeah. 6 years are generally under $50. Really pretty high premium for a 7-year for $225 or a
Yeah.
9-year.
Yeah.
And what we just talked about, 12-year for $50, sitting right in front of us. Anyway.
What do you got next, Ed?
Well, this one's interesting too. So, Heritage Distilling is embracing the future of commerce with the launch of Bitcoin Bourbon, a limited edition 106.15 proof Kentucky Straight bourbon that celebrates crypto culture and decentralized payments. The release coincides with Heritage's new cryptocurrency treasury reserve policy, under which the company will accept Bitcoin and may hold Bitcoin as a strategic asset. To mark the occasion, Heritage is offering a 1 Bitcoin giveaway with bonus entries for those paying with Bitcoin. The release, if I say Bitcoin one more time, the release will be sold exclusively through Heritage's direct-to-consumer e-commerce platform, with further product details and price to be announced. So we don't know what that's actually going to cost, but you can go to Heritage's website and enter the Bitcoin giveaway. I did that because what's that worth? Like $100,000 right now?
Yeah, I think they're around $100,000.
You can buy all these bourbons we've talked about,
could.
even the Stitzel
Multiples.
Reserve.
You can get multiples, right? So this is an interesting appeal to not our generation of bourbon drinkers, but perhaps the next one, or maybe even 2 generations after ours. I appreciate it from that standpoint. It didn't really say anything about the bourbon.
No, I think this is, yeah. It's I from what I read, I mean, didn't it sound like the bourbon's not even going to be released until like December or something? So this is really all the big build-up.
It's a build-up to it, yeah.
Which makes sense. You're not going to have $100,000 giveaway, just 3 weeks later.
Yeah. I understand that, right? So, yeah. Well, and 3 months from now, Bitcoin could be back to 50,000 or 60,000, right? Which is still a lot of money, but it's very volatile, and it's interesting that they're using it as part of their investment platform too. It's just a different take on it. I mean, it's different from having a celebrity endorsement. It's just another way to try and stand out in the crowd, it seems to me. So I hope it works for them. Maybe they'll make an Ethereum rye. You never know.
Are you trying to get a marketing job with them?
No.
All right, well, anyway.
By the way, I just trademarked that in case you...
I'm sure no one's thought of it, but especially a company that's releasing Bitcoin bourbon. It never crossed their mind.
Right.
But perhaps. Right. Moving on. So next is 15 Stars has announced their latest release, 15 Stars Founders Reserve Fine Aged Rye. It is a blend of 4 straight rye whiskeys aged 14, 13, 9, and 8 years from Kentucky, Indiana, and Tennessee, making it their highest age rye whiskey yet. As you know, I've been a big fan of everything 15 Stars has released, and I've brought them to many bottle shares, and I've reviewed them all, and I'm a big fan. So I'm really looking forward to trying this. And honestly, if UPS store wasn't closed today for Father's Day, I guess I would have picked it up because there's a bottle there waiting for me.
Well, and I know you're a big Stars of 15 Stars, and I know I've enjoyed the samples that you've shared at bottle shares and things like that. So, and I'm a big rye fan, so I'm looking forward to this. 95 proof, $139.99, I think was the price point.
Yeah, I left that part out. But
that's a nice mid range compared to some of the things we've been talking about, right? It's a little bit on the high side for a blended bourbon, but these folks do that very, very well. And so,
but the ages are high. You got 14, 13. I mean, 14 and 13 are pretty old for rye.
They are.
And then you got 9 and 8. So I have faith, though. I've really been a big. That's not like I get paid to say this, but I've been a big fan, and I like it. So that's why I bring it to bottle shares.
I'm gonna let you educate me. It's got a Kentucky rye, an Indiana rye, and a Tennessee rye. Who makes a Tennessee rye?
Well, Dickel makes a Tennessee rye.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Because that Tennessee rye was in the Leopold Brothers collaboration where they had the 3-chamber still one. They don't release they have a rye, but the rye that they release as Dickel rye, as far as I know, is, maybe I should say, but I'm pretty sure that's MGP. But they have nonetheless distilled their own rye, which I do not think they've released as its own product, but it is the rye that's in that Leopold Brothers collaboration.
Okay. Interesting.
So it could be theirs because this would fit that it lines up.
Right.
So otherwise, who would have at the youngest an 8-year rye down there?
Right.
So I don't know. Tennessee Distilling, it's a little.
Jack Daniels puts out a rye product.
Well, Jack Daniels
now that I
has
think
a
about
rye.
it, but I don't know. Again, like you say, 8 years is the youngest in this mix, and that's
No, Jack has a rye that would fit in there, but
yeah.
Would that wind up in there? I don't know.
Right.
And then Tennessee Distilling, they produce. They're like the MGP of Tennessee, and they have rye. As I believe they have rye, but if they do, I don't think they've been around. Have they been around? I don't think they've been around 8 years.
I don't think they're that old. Yeah, I'm not certain, but they're not.
So I'm not sure who else that would come from.
Well, so anyway,
there.
I can't wait for you to get it, and we'll try it.
Yeah, well, if you want to break into the UPS store,
I can wait. I'm not that early.
I didn't say that. All right, so we'll just make do with our Eagle Rare 12.
There you go. We'll suffer through it. We'll suffer through it.
All right, so the next one is Four Branches Bourbon, the Continental Army, Navy, and Marines. Honors the 250th anniversary of America's first 3 military branches, according to the brand. As with their other releases, they allocate a portion of their sales to support veterans and first responder communities. It's made from a mash bill of 75% corn, 13% rye, and 12% malted barley, and bottled at 102 proof and aged 9 years. And it's priced at $119.99. And then I've met the guys. I mean, they're all really are veterans. They really do support the veteran and first responder communities.
Right.
They've been doing a great job. I was very impressed with their first release, really, because I never know what to expect when things are attached to any other theme other than just we're simply making bourbon. But their bourbon was good. They're great guys, and what they're trying to do is also very admirable. So I'm sure this will be good. Especially, I assume they're still working with Bardstown Bourbon Company, so whatever's going to be blended and come out of there is great. But I actually do not know that for a fact. I've never seen the bottle. I don't know that that's where it's from, but I know that the prior ones were made in conjunction with them. So yeah, I expect this to be good, and it's for a good cause. And
yeah, search it out, buy a bottle.
Yeah. All right. So next, Redemption Whiskey unveils its ultra-rare 18-year-old bourbon, the latest addition to its Ancients series. Bottled at 103.4 proof and non-chill filtered, this limited release was aged nearly 2 decades in charred American oak barrels under the guidance of master blender Alan Kennedy. The bourbon is said to offer layered complexity and rich character, with only 2,400 bottles available starting in June at a suggested retail price of $399.99. So I actually do have a sample of this, which I haven't tried yet. Just was sitting on my doorstep.
Oh, that's nice. So
I'm very actually excited to try this. Have you had Redemptions?
I've had Redemptions, yes. But
I don't know the specifics about this, but I mean, their original thing, they were one of the earlier people that had MGP bourbons, and they had a very good selection of whiskeys and did a really nice job with what they had. Maybe I just haven't kept up enough, but I'm not familiar with too many other recent releases, frankly. So when I read about this, I was a bit surprised by it, and I'm actually very excited to try it because they were one of the original.
They got some of the
people
best selections,
be involved with MGP. So I'm assuming this is going to be a very good bourbon.
Sounds like they've been sitting on these till they were what they wanted them to be, and that's great. I mean, 18 years is a nice age statement. That's a nice proof. You're gonna, if it's too hot for you, you can water it down just a little bit, but it's still a little bit dear. But for what it is, you're not gonna find too many 18-year-old bottles of MGP juice out there.
Which we're assuming. I guess we do not know.
I had assumed that it's MGP juice because, like you said, that's where they source their whiskey. So
right. So, but yes, but they do make good whiskey. So I assume this is really good. I'm excited to try that soon.
Watch for the review.
You can try it too. All right, so the next is Oaklore Distilling announced the release of its limited edition Oaklore Story Series Port Cast Finish Rye Whiskey. $99.95 for a 750 milliliter bottle, and bottle that's 92 proof. It's 7 years old, non-chill filtered, small batch American whiskey, offering a fullness of character and a richness of color that is achieved through additional aging in freshly dumped domestic port wine barrels. The straight rye receives its original aging of 6 years in a combination of chart 2 and 3 new white oak barrels. Then it is transferred into the port wine barrels where it continues to age for 12 to 18 months. So that actually sounds pretty interesting too, because you don't see that many port. I mean, it's got good age on it, although it sort of looks like they're adding that age in the port barrel into the
They are.
total
Sounds like it,
age.
yes. Yeah. I mean, it's a 6-year-old bourbon, but it's still in a cask for that 7th year. It's just a port cask, it sounds like. And
I think that'll be a good combination because port's pretty sweet. Rye, I think rye's finish better than bourbons in general.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Especially with sweeter flavored things. And I'm doing all the talking, so why don't you
well,
say
that's
something?
fine. I mean, they're out of. I know they're out of Charlotte, North Carolina. It looks like it might only be available in North Carolina. When I got on their website to see, distribution and stuff like that, all the little dots were there in North Carolina. So, it might be that only our North Carolina listeners can find a bottle of this, but
Well, just this one actually, because this is that limited edition story series. So I think those are only available either at they may only be available at the distillery, if not in North Carolina. Yeah. But I included it because I had recently tried, and we had talked about, they had their 4-grain bourbon, their bourbon, which is now getting national distribution. So they've started with that. That was the first thing that got national distribution. Okay. So these more limited releases, I suppose at some point along the line, they will too. Because I try not to include too many things that nobody can buy.
Right.
But, and as a matter of fact, I brought that. I really enjoyed that. Did you try that? The Oaklore bourbon?
I don't know that I did try that. So, I think I saw it at one of the bottle shares, but I'm not sure I got around to it.
Well, I brought it to a bottle share last night, and actually, it was a very big hit. People really enjoyed it. Yeah. So, good things coming out of there, and they're interesting what they do, because I think at this, I don't know to what degree they distill themselves, but they have a North Carolina distillery that they distill with, and then at least that bourbon also, I believe the other half came from a Kentucky distillery, but then it gets additionally aged in the North Carolina Piedmont, and so that climate plays a role in it. So anyway, I'm interested to try this. Well, actually, I think I have a sample of this as well. So,
that's great.
So I will, but
it's an interesting, like you say, the finishes, I agree, rye finish is better than bourbon. There's something about a rye and a port going together. I'm not. Didn't it say like a domestic port? Like I'm not a wine connoisseur at all, but I don't see much advertised American port.
Well, I believe there are a number of them, and I was starting to go down the rabbit hole because of how you could call a wine in a port wine style a port that's made outside of Portugal, but apparently there's some ways that it can be called that. So it was getting beyond the scope, but I got caught by the domestic port as well. But I know there are domestic ports because I've seen them. I think there's now I'm just making stuff up, but I think Gallo may have one. I thought there's other. And there's smaller vineyards and that have them as well. Just
another sign of what cooperation, collaboration in the spirits industry. You let's all work together to see what new products we can come up with and give it a try. So I hope you got this so you can tell us about it one of these days.
Well, you can try that too.
All right.
I think it's upstairs. Yes, I've been out of town at National Bourbon Week for the last week, so I have a number of things that are on this list that have arisen that we will be tasting.
And now you all know the shameless reason why I do this, right? It's just got to get to sample all these. So.
Well, I'll give you your check when we.
Okay. All right. Put it on the tab. Put it on the tab.
All right, so now we have another whole bunch that we don't have quite as much details on. So, I'd say we'll get through them quickly, but there's a lot of them. But we will do what we can. So, Kentucky Owl Batch 13 is rumored to be being released this month. Although I haven't seen an official press release, and it's not on their website, but I've seen people speak about it. And it is listed on a number of online websites, as well as the Michigan Liquor Commission new item price list. So I assume it wouldn't get there if it wasn't actually coming out.
That's sort of, some truth if it's showing up on a state-run liquor store web price.
So they have it at $399.99. But, I mean, that's... Well, so Kentucky Owl hasn't had a ton of transparency in what exactly is in those bottles or how old they are, which they had gotten a lot of flack for originally. So $399.99, that's a pretty high price for something that doesn't. We don't.
You can't.
Well, we don't even know if this exists at this point.
That's
but,
right. But
even if we did, we wouldn't know that
transparent.
much about it.
Right.
I'm
They're
sure.
not transparent. So, and the company's in a bankruptcy associated with Stoley's bankruptcy.
Right.
I haven't had time.
Stoley America, not Stoley.
Right. That's right. Yes. I would normally go dig down into that, see what I could learn. I just haven't had time to go look at that bankruptcy case. But
well, you're waiting for them to call you to be their attorney.
Just because you're in bankruptcy doesn't mean you don't keep operating and you don't sell your products. So, it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, this will come to fruition. That it's not just a rumor, and the folks that want to shell out $400 for a product that has Kentucky Owl on it, you should, right? Let's try and keep that alive and see where it goes.
I feel like we might have even talked about Kentucky Owl 12 last, because I feel like I'm going to say what I said once before, that I've been, obviously when Dixon Dedman had it, they put out really good whiskey, and as we know, he started being partners with the Carters, who then split to start the old Carter brand. So it's always been very good quality whiskey, but Dixon doesn't have anything to do with it as far as I know anymore.
Nope.
And the Carters don't, as far as I know anymore.
I don't think so.
So, and then there have been a number of other people along the way involved with the brand, and I've heard so little about it lately. I'm not actually sure who's doing the blending.
Right.
So
right.
The problem is, I honestly stopped buying them because of their high price and the lack of transparency with what's in the bottle. So I did taste the 12 a couple times at Half Price Day at Evergreen Liquors.
There you go. Yeah.
And it was very good, but I think it goes for similar. It's either $2.99 or $3.99.
Yeah.
It's a similar price range though, and it's still a lot to spend.
Right.
When you don't. Well, it's a lot to spend anyway, but it's a lot to spend if you don't know exactly what you're buying.
I remember tasting there's like a Mardi Gras version.
That was like $500.
Yeah, that was really expensive. And I think
that was a rum-finished rye, I believe.
Yeah, and it was very good.
It was very good.
But $600 is a lot of money for a bottle of bourbon. So
especially when it's a rye.
Right. It's even more for a bottle of rye. So.
But anyway, I'll taste it at Half Price Night if it comes out. But I don't. 400's a lot. All right, so next, I'd actually heard about this brand before, but I don't know much about it. But it just made the news again because a country music artist, J.D. Shelburne, on his Facebook page, which just happened to pop up in my feed. Of course. I have nothing against J.D., but I don't really know much about him and do not follow him. But I guess, how Facebook just wants to show you everything.
The algorithm knew that you were interested. Yes, it did.
So it told me that his Inclusion Brand J.D. Shelburne Signature Series Small Batch 101 Proof Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey was being bottled that day, which was on June 12th, which was Thursday when I was putting this together at Bardstown Bourbon Company. And then he's going to be doing a bottle signing on June 14th, which was... yesterday, where I saw pictures where Liquor Barn was just, and that was at a liquor barn in Middleton Commons, and I actually saw that in my Facebook feed since I paid attention to this post.
Of course.
And there were people lined up through the aisles. Yeah.
Wow.
And so the website states that J.D. Shelburne is the ambassador for the brand. I don't know the specifics of his relationship, if there's any ownership or anything else involved, or any other they really didn't give too many details about much of anything, but they also have a 92 proof bourbon and a vodka available on the brand's website. So, and they didn't actually give the price either. So that's why it's in this category of things with limited details.
Who's the distiller?
Well, we don't know who the distiller is, but the brand is Inclusion Brand,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
which I believe has, social responsibility things attached to its inclusion name. I think I
Okay.
really don't
Yeah.
know enough about it. It's
Yeah.
it's
I mean,
just in this limited.
I know I saw it in my my Liquor Barn email, my weekly email on specials. I did see that he was going to be doing a signing at one of the stores, but I'm not familiar with him as an artist, and I have avoided Facebook for weeks now, so that didn't help. That did not help Mr. Shelburne either.
Well,
But
since
another
a lot
celebrity,
of people bought it, maybe
Yeah.
one of them want to
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
us about it and what they paid for it,
Right.
because we otherwise do not know.
Yeah, so tell us if you're one of those people who are in line. Let us know.
Yeah. So Remus Bourbon brings back the Babe Ruth Reserve. The 2025 edition of Remus Babe Ruth Reserve features a medley of 3 high rye bourbon mash bills inspired by Ruth's number, which is number 3, and they include specially selected barrels distilled in 2016, 2017, comprising 44% rye, 49% rye, and 36% rye bourbons, respectively. So all quite high rye bourbons. It's bottled at 111 proof and priced at $149.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle.
And again, MGP, knows their rise, and so these are bourbons actually with high rye mash bills, so it's going to be an interesting taste. That seems to me to be a fair price for that age and that proof. So they've done a Babe Ruth Reserve before, I
Right,
think.
they bring it back. It was last year or the year before. I tried
Okay.
it then. It was good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Where they're doing 8,399 bottles of this. Apparently, that's how many bats he had, I think. So so there should be some out there, folks. You can get this one because there's 8,000 plus bottles of it. And, again, it's not a bad price, even though it's MGP juice. They're working on their marketing, right? And
Yeah. I think that last one must have sold out because it didn't last around here very long. We may not have gotten much of it. I saw it when we were traveling, and then I tasted it after I had actually already seen it, and I probably would have bought it had I tasted it before, but I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and sticking with the MGP theme, what do you got next?
We have Penelope Bourbon introduces Cigar Sessions Chapter 1. The first release in the annual Cigar Sessions, Chapter 1 is crafted to complement medium-bodied cigars, which future chapters designed to explore a range of cigar pairings. It is a blend of straight bourbon, 100% American single malt, and American light whiskey. And it's overall aged 6 years, or I guess that's the age of the youngest thing in there. We don't know. It's bottled at 101 proof and priced at $79.99 for a 750 milliliter bottle.
That's an interesting blend. I don't know that I've ever seen anything that blends those 3 products before, right? You've got a bourbon, a single malt, and a light whiskey. I sure hope the light whiskey is more than 6 years old. I know it takes age very well. I would guess the light whiskey at 6 years is probably a little young, but who knows once you blend it, right?
Well, I mean, MGP is certainly known for its much older light whiskeys.
Right.
So,
Right.
And I honestly don't know. I mean, we know why they have the old stuff because they made it when light whiskey was being developed to try to, compete with vodka in the category,
Right.
and we know how that went. It did not do well.
That's why there's so much of it around.
Right, but years later, now that it's aged, people are really enjoying its like buttery, rich taste and butterscotch flavors, and it's quite good. So, but I'm not aware of anybody producing it still in large quantities. Maybe MGP still makes it. I have absolutely no idea.
Right.
So, right, so we don't know. So age 6 years is just the age of the youngest whiskey in the bottle. So it could have 18-year light whiskey in it. We have no idea.
And I wonder where the single malt comes from, because I don't think, and I don't know, MGP will probably make whatever you ask them to, right? But I don't think they normally put out a single malt whiskey.
No, they do not normally put out one,
Yeah.
but for some reason, I feel like they've made one, and they obviously make sense.
they can make. They've got the ability to make anything they want there. So, So anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing how those three things blend together.
Well, you have to have a medium-bodied cigar with it.
That could be arranged. No.
Now, I thought it was interesting how they're apparently, from this for the description here, they're going to tailor these to actually specific cigar categories. So they're sort of going all in with this, cigar. We won't get into the discussion of, cigar blend, batch, whatever, because that's a little controversial. But the whole idea of these cigar blend type things is that they're supposed to pair with cigars. They're not supposed to taste with cigars, like cigars, which I think a lot of people have thought. But the whole idea is you're supposed to create a whiskey that goes very well with a cigar.
Yeah, but this doesn't. I mean, a lot of those cigar blends I see they'll have an amburana finish, or they'll be a stronger flavor because they're meant to compete with that cigar, right, or to complement it. I'm sure not compete with it, but. There's nothing here that indicates this is going to be finished in any particular type of wood.
No, it sounds like it's just outright whiskeys.
It's just whiskeys. So interesting take on the whole cigar marketing aspect.
Right, good point. That does make it quite different because it's Joseph Magnus with Nancy Fraley that I think was one of the first bourbon cigar blend, and that one is finished in. I'd have to go grab the bottle, but I think Armagnac and a couple other things. So I think so that she basically set the tone for how people have made them. So to make one that's actually not finished in any of those other barrels is a bit
it's unique. It's unique. And I can see you could get conceivably from a single malt, you could get some smokiness, right?
Well, and some fruit flavors too, depending.
Right. So anyway, we're looking forward to trying this.
Yeah. All right, next, this probably passed. So Boone County Distilling is releasing an 8-year-old single barrel bourbon in their gift shop, June 13 to 15, while supplies last. So that's a Father's Day type thing. $84.99 per bottle, and the proof was not provided. So. I assume after Father's Day, if these are still around, they're probably going to still be available. But there may not be a lot of them.
That's right. And if it's a single barrel, I'd be surprised if they haven't sold it 8 years. What they're going to get 200 bottles probably,
or less. Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's probably gone.
Yeah. That's your good $10 a year price point, right?
Yeah.
8 years, $85, and single barrel product. That's great. So.
And then there have been a number of releases to celebrate the U.S. Army's 250th. We had talked about Green Rivers, I think, a couple of weeks ago.
That rings a bell.
Yeah, but we're talking about it now. But I mean, so the press release came out long before the actual anniversary date, so we talked about it ahead of time. But the actual anniversary was just yesterday.
The parade yesterday.
Yeah.
So.
So Horse Soldier Bourbon, which also has an attachment to veterans and the military, announces the launch of a limited edition bottle commemorating the U.S. Army's 250th anniversary. Bottled at 100 proof, the special release honors those who have defended our nation, and it is now available across select military bases as well as on horsesoldierbourbon.com for $150. I don't think we know too much more about the specifics.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't find anything else about it. I thought it was interesting that they're making it available on bases. What is the PX on Army bases and military bases where you go buy your stuff and you get a better deal. So, but yeah, Horse Soldier has been doing this for a while. They're pretty well established as far as supporting veterans, supporting the armed forces brand, and so makes sense they would do a bottle for the 250th Army anniversary.
Yeah, I've been wondering what's going on with them, really, because I mean they were supposed to open that big distillery down in Somerset with like a whole entertainment complex and like horse park and resort hotel, and I don't know where that is.
Haven't heard anything about that, right?
No.
Yeah. Well, and
I think Gallo bought them or somebody bought them. But
that's what you want to do. If that's one of the exit paths, right? That's a better exit path than somebody like Garrett County Distilling, who's just folded up shop. So,
well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, still, that's a beautiful distillery. That seems like somebody should buy it.
Somebody will buy it.
I don't know. It's a very unusual environment we're in right now. All right, and then to wrap it up with our last one, this came in as I was wrapping up the newsletter, so that's why it's a very brief mention. Pursuit Spirits announced their new Pursuit United Cognac Cask Rye. It's a blend of 4 to 7-year-old straight rye whiskeys from Sagamore Spirit and Bardstown Bourbon Company, finished in XO cognac barrels, and then bottled at Pursuit's signature 108 proof. So I think they released it to their P Club, but the public release will be on July 3rd, and then I guess it will be available after that.
Yeah, because I looked on the website, and it wasn't on their website, so
no,
I was impressed that you knew about it. So.
And I don't have the price either because of that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
But
that, cognac casks finishes are interesting. They're for me anyway. They're even, if you will, grapier than a sherry or a wine finish cask. But it gives a nice depth to it. And to your point earlier about, ryes tend to finish better than a bourbon here. I think these guys have figured that out. The proof point at 108 is a good proof point. So looking forward to seeing this on the shelf and snagging a bottle. Sagamore Rye does a great job of making. Sagamore Distillery does a great job of making ryes. And we know Bardstown Bourbon puts out a good product. So.
Yeah, I think that should be a very good combination because that rye spice goes very well with the cognac, just like it probably will go with the port, although I can't remember if I've ever had a port finished rye before. So
I don't know that I have.
Interested in trying that one.
Right.
As well. Trying everything as usual.
Great list today, Ed. A lot of new stuff coming out. There's a lot of stuff. Apparently, we all know there's a lot of bourbon barrels out there, a lot of rye barrels out there. People are going to keep on coming out with new products. So, support the industry, folks.
Well, and there's certainly no shortage of new releases. We broke the podcast and the newsletter in half because the number of new releases has just gotten so huge. You can't combine it with the news, or we'd be talking far longer. We probably already are than anybody wants to listen to us.
But if you've made it this far, we thank you very, very much.
We do.
Come back next week. We'll have news instead of new releases.
We will. So that about does it for this episode. I hope you have enjoyed this edition of the Bourbon Obsessed Bourbon Releases News Podcast, your commercial-free and money-free podcast. Be sure to join us next Monday for our Bourbon and Distillery News Podcast. We already have quite a bit to talk about there as well. So, also, be sure to like and follow us at your preferred podcast provider so that you don't miss an episode. And don't forget to tell all your friends, too. You can also head over to bourbonobsessed.com to check out some of our over 300 bourbon reviews and over 50 distillery write-ups. I need to update that because it's well over 300 at this point.
Yeah.
While you are there, you can also sign up to have my newsletters delivered directly to your inbox. Finally, I can be found on Instagram at bourbon_obsessed and on Facebook at Bourbon Obsessed, and would love for you to follow me there as well. Dean, now that you're back in the country, where can they find you?
Folks can find me on Instagram at Dean of Bourbon with underscores. And one day soon, I'm going to put up a little clip that I made when I was at La Maison du Whiskey in Paris, which is a wonderful whiskey store. So you can check that out in a day or so.
Yeah, I've heard about that. I'd love to go there.
It was amazing. Yes.
Why wasn't I invited? Never mind, it's obvious.
I need someone to carry my bags. I'll think of you next time. So.
All right.
Have a great week.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.